All right, we're back. Man, this is not over yet. This is not over yet. I actually kind of miss doing you know, the, you know, kind of like the guests back to back. I haven't done that in ages, but it's good. Just keep the ball rolling, keep it going, keep it going. All right, so my other guest is ready to go. This man is a rapper. He is also a producer as well, and he does a fantastic job, especially with his flow. And because when I saw him at Shot Kickers, when they gave him the opportunity to do a couple songs there, man, this man was on fire. Let me tell you. But that's why he's here right now, and we're gonna bring him in. Hear his story as well. So let's do it.
Real talk with Labzy, we speaking the truth from the streets to the booth, giving voice to the groove, no holding back. Every combo's the proof. It's the realest in the game. Now we raising the roof. Real talk with Labzy, Labzy, Labzy. Real talk with Labzy, Labzy, Labzy. Real talk with Labzy, Labzy, Labzy. Real talk with Labzy.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I present to you Trix William.
Yo, let me switch this up. There we go.
There you go. First of all, brother, how you doing? How's your mental health?
Bro, my mental health, I gotta say, never been better. Things are productive. There's meetings and functions. There's places to go, people to see. That's always great for keeping the mental health at an optimum. It's been a crazy long winter, but it's been one that has been filled with opportunities to get out and do live shows and kick it with other people.
Nah, I love that, man. Now, I wanted to know your music journey. Now, was music always been a part of you, or was it something that kind of came to you?
Sure. All right. Well, I guess you could say that I didn't grow up with a family that were musicians, or say musically oriented, in the sense of they were practicing their craft and whatnot. However, my mom was a very zany lady who had a very eclectic kind of mix of music when I grew up in New South Wales. And from an early age, I really got inspired and connected to just music and sound from listening to her collection and my father's collection, as well, for that matter, of songs. This is stuff like Fleetwood Mac, onto ABBA, and then onto the Eagles, or Bruce Springsteen, and Cat Stevens, and the Beatles, and then Prince, and on and on and on it went. And I guess from there, that inspired me from an early age. But I think when it comes to connection with, my music that I practice personally, that kicked in for me from a later age. I was still quite young, probably about 8 years old. I've been, listening to hip hop. So yeah, I would say from very early humble beginnings, I've always had a resonance, with music, and more so specifically with rap and hip hop, and just the words and the cadences and the flows, and what it stands for, all of that, you know.
No, I love that, bro. And when was the moment that you thought to yourself, you know what, let's give music a try. Let's try this out. When was that moment?
I crazy. So I got the hip hop bug, you could say,
Yeah.
from listening to. I've got a half brother. He's older than me. He's about 7 years older than me. At the
Mhm.
time when I first heard Wu-Tang's 36 Chambers and the Slim Shady LP and early Redman and Method Man and Big Pun, Capone Noriaja, even ICP, funnily enough, because my brother was a cooker like that.
Okay.
I just had a switch, flip in my mind, and from there I was like, you know, whoa, what the fuck is this kind of thing?
That kind of moment, yeah.
Yeah. So for me, I think I could even hear the melodies in my head. I could hear the flows in my head once I saw the early days of Rage and crazy bands that, I know and love, like the Red Hot Chili Peppers and Rage Against the Machine and, other bands of the like. And I was like, this expression for me is something that I think I could do, potentially try. I was never like a logically minded kid. I think, from an early age, a lot of people thought that I had, ADHD or something like that.
Yeah.
And maybe I probably did, but I grew out of it. I'm not really sure how it works. But, for me, I used to read a lot as a kid. I used to read a lot of books. I've read, the Lord of the Rings trilogy, and I've read Harry Potter, and I've read early books on philosophy and like things like that. I love to read, and still do. Although these days not so much do I get to do that, but that kind of helped me formulate, the confidence to actually just go pen to pad and just pretty much imitate those earlier sounds and artists that I mentioned, by, writing my own shit and seeing where that would take me, kind of thing. So as early as, 10 years old, I've been, writing lyrics, writing rhymes, seeing where it would go. I'd often write a lot of stupid shit. Just mucking around, man. That's what I would do just to have fun and pass the time. I was never really a sports oriented kind of dude, I did have the kind of conventional Australian kid upbringing where, you play little league, like rugby league, because, I was in New South Wales, or union and soccer, and led a healthy, active lifestyle by the beach. But, a lot of people, a lot of kids, I think that age were gravitating towards those interests more, whereas mine was more, I guess, just the written word and oratory. Yeah. So for me, that was like my earliest influences, you could say, and it's never really left me. From 10 years old, like my parents grew up taking me to, when they were still together, a Seventh-day Adventist church. I remember, like, I would just muck around on the drum kit or the guitar or the piano or something like that, or I just grab the microphone and mimic what I just seen, like the musician members of the church band just do and play. You know what I mean? I used to go to Sunday school in that early age, and I remember they got me to do some. It was like a corny rap infused inside like a Christian song. But,
Really?
but I was like
they made
10
you
years
do like
old
a
at the
Christian
time.
rap.
Hey?
Was it like a Christian rap, was it?
Well, yeah, it was at the time, like when I was doing the Sunday school stuff, and I just remember they got me to like do this verse in this church, and that was probably the earliest kind of experiences that I had as a kid. Actually, just doing a live performance for an audience, so to speak. Yeah,
Were you nervous doing it? Oh, hang on.
that I was. Yeah, there was.
Always those
There were
calls.
nerves, but there was also an exhilaration, like for me, and I always had a natural inclination to want to do that, to want to entertain others, to want to actually be at the forefront and give them something they can that they can watch and enjoy, so to speak.
Mm.
And in any way whatsoever, I not in any way whatsoever do I identify as being religious or anything like that. And my parents are a long time divorced. I don't go to church or anything like that. But um, I can say that coupled with my brother's exposure to hip hop and just listening to my parents' collection of music, that's what really got me inspired to want to do more. And it hasn't left me since.
Okay. No, that's
Yeah,
awesome. Now,
yeah,
when
yeah.
it comes to your process, like, do you have to hear the beat first and then you write the lyrics down, or do you write lyrics first and then the beats has to match it?
That's a great question. Look, just depending on the situation, it can be either or. Typically, you know, these days, I'll pull out my phone and I'll just go to my notepad. If I have a wave of inspiration, that would usually occur to me within the morning, and I'll need to get that out. I'll need to write that down,
Mm.
that paraphrase or those couple bars. Sometimes it can, just it's a very ethereal thing where it just shoots straight into your mind. But also, it happens the other way where I'll listen to some some beat like and the shit would go hard for me. I remember like back in the days of SoundClick, and I'm talking about like MySpace era,
Oh yeah.
as a teenager.
Oh yeah.
I Oh yeah. Yeah, that shit is like the
Kids don't know
the
what that
OG of
is.
music streaming, especially for underground people. I don't know if many people know about SoundClick, but
Mm.
I grew up in that era, and I would listen to a lot of producers, Cinema Beats, All Rounder Productions. He's been around for years, and there's a couple others. And for me, I would always have a natural and instantaneous wave of inspiration for something, and it's beautiful to have that experience. And when it comes to actually writing the lyrics themselves, so yeah, in essence, it can really be either way. It's just dependent, I guess, upon those external factors as well. Like, am I just forcing myself to freestyle write just for the sake of keeping the penmanship fresh, or have I just naturally uh, gotten the wave of inspiration and I need to get something out because I'm feeling some way emotionally that I really need to channel that. It happens, both ways for me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. No, I like that. And so, because I've watched you perform when you were at Shot Kickers,
sure,
right? And
for
when they gave you the opportunity to perform a couple songs there,
sure.
and you know how to chop, my friend. You know how to chop. Man, now I want to understand the writing process of when you want to chop when you're rapping, like when you write, do you have to do that kind of freestyle, or do you have to write that down and try to figure out how you're going to chop that? Like, go through that with me.
For sure. Well, I mean, I have had the fortune of being educated at a tertiary level, and then you know, after graduating high school, I went to Lismore from Inverell. This is 2010, and I completed a bachelor of contemporary music in Lismore, New South Wales, which is a very famous musical course. It's not going to be around for much longer, but a lot of talented Australian musicians have come out of that course and whatnot. But they have and had an excellent program for understanding rhythm and more so syncopation, which is like, I guess, the filling in the offbeats to the underlying pulse of a time signature, whether that be, you know, primarily as we, you know, listen to all music, especially music in 4/4, which is nearly all of hip hop. You know, there's that you know. For me, I had to learn to improvise that early on. When I was studying, I was in a band from about 2010 to 2015 in Lismore. We did tour up and down New South Wales and Queensland a lot. They were really accomplished musicians, man. Especially Dylan Johnston on the bass, who was incredibly funky. And then we had Matthew Roche, you know, who came from a punk background. And then we had a indie, you know, rocker for the guitarist. And then there was me, who just came from purely this kind of, you know, hip hop resonation or whatever. But when they would improvise live, I would have to learn to keep up with them and to keep it interesting. So oftentimes, you know, they would be fucking around. It would be an extended jam. Maybe we were on stage for like 10 or 15 minutes or something like that. And then I would scat, you know, just to fill the space, but vocally be a texture within the band's accompaniment and you know, have that communication, because, you know, when you're working in that kind of environment musically with people and it's impromptu, so to speak, you know, you learn to be flexible rhythmically. So I guess, you know, for me, I had that fortune of having you know, grown up, leaving home and being around very accomplished and musically dynamic musicians, but that also enhanced, I think, my flow and learning how to adapt to that, I would say. And it hasn't really left. That's why Shot Kickers is such an excellent, you know, outlet for freestyle MCs here in Melbourne, because they get to experience the same thing, you know, rapping with a backing band. And it's so different from rapping to just beats, because you don't really know where they're going to digress to. I mean, there's general rules that they'll follow for, you know, the key and sitting in the pocket so the MCs can rap, but, you know, they might all of a sudden have like a bar of 7/4 or 7/8 or something like that, and the time signature is 4/4 or 6/8 or even 3/4, you know, and you learn to bounce off that and to adapt accordingly.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome, bro. Now,
Shit.
being from New South Wales, as you mentioned before,
Yeah.
how did Melbourne attract you the very first time?
Okay, so yeah, I just got to compose myself, because like for me it was a bit of an emotional decision.
Okay.
You know, I don't have any family here in Melbourne. I don't. Well, I did whilst my grandfather was alive. He was in Richmond, but because I went part-time with my course after, you know, 2012. So, you know, it took me 5 years to complete, you know, a 3-year bachelor, if I'm being perfectly honest, but that's because I did have my fun, man, and I did have my era of, you know, living rough out of home and living in musical share houses and whatnot. I got bored after I graduated in 2015. So I was still living in Lismore, which is incidentally my place of birth, which is why I ended up going back there once I did graduate high school to study this course. But albeit it's a very kind of alternative lifestyle, not much in the way of work, not much in the way of opportunity to support yourself full time. Say if you don't have a kind of administrative background or maybe like a solid trade behind you, it can be very difficult to support yourself, even if you don't come from, say, a background of money. If I'm being perfectly honest, but Lismore is infamous for attracting a wave of very young, creative, talented people and buskers, because it's only a stone throw away from Byron Bay, which is also renowned now nationally in Australia as being a paradise. And it is a paradise, but it's very gentrified now. What attracted me to Melbourne was there were a lot of people graduating my course, and they were actually moving down south, and they were telling me, you got to go to Melbourne. Melbourne's crazy. There's so much opportunity to, perform live 3 nights of the week, and, sick bands, sick artists come out of Melbourne. And I suppose I had to weigh up my options if I was going to move out of this regional country town. I had Brisbane, I had Sydney, and I had Melbourne. I actually really kind of rolled the dice because I had watched a series of, Got Beef kind of battle rap videos and other artists emerging from Melbourne earlier on. Artists like Mantra and Grey Ghost, who I had actually seen live at Blues Fest many years ago now, like at least 10, 11 years ago. And I was like, well, if I'm going to be serious about being a hip-hop artist and defining myself as this person, I need to go to a city that's going to facilitate those opportunities for me. And, to cut a long story short, I had just come back from a tour of Japan with my university choir in 2015, and I had a certain stash of savings, but I was, not happy with my living situation, my share house situation in Lismore, and the band kind of got stagnant that I mentioned of earlier. We weren't gigging as much. They kind of deviated away, the different members, and, went into their own side projects or other endeavors, which is oftentimes a natural thing that happens when you have a crazy eclectic band and they come from all different walks of life or inspiration. All of a sudden, they want to go on and do their own thing, basically. So I was feeling bored that, I wasn't gigging much. Wasn't really getting much opportunity to get out there because Byron Bay and the Northern Rivers, New South Wales and Lismore, they're very folk-oriented, but a lot of indie rock as well. There's some hip-hop artists there that do shine, but I would say it was a lot harder for me to get out there in that area, which is why I wanted to make that change and come down to Melbourne. So I think it was 16th of January, 2016. Yeah, bro. I had my Toyota Camry Altis packed up, my entire life, and I just that morning decided this is it. My mates had known for at least a year that I was preparing to do this because I was talking about it, but I made those moves once I came back from that tour in Japan to give notice to the work I was doing at the time and terminate my lease, and I was squatting in this musical share house in Lismore and not really doing much. We were fucking partying, and I was trying to lap it up and just enjoy that time with my friends. But I knew inevitably that, you know, there was no turning back from this decision. And then, yeah, came to Melbourne. The trip took, you know, 17 hours, 17 or 18 hours. I'm trying to remember if I did it all straight. I'm pretty sure I did. I didn't have a stopover. Actually, no, I did stop over in Newcastle on the way. But aside from that, yeah, I just straight shot drove down across the state border and packed up my life and moved to Melbourne. And I've been here since.
No, I
Yeah.
love it, man. Now, what were your first like thoughts about moving to Melbourne? Like what's like when you moved to Melbourne, like what were your first thoughts? Like was it so different to Sydney and also the in Queensland as well? Like what were your first thoughts when you moved down?
Well, I knew that it was going to be a cultural shock. There was a lot of Victorian architecture in the CBD that still made me go fucking wow, you know, like when I would go out and in the city, and it was a very exciting time. I had that excitement to get out there and meet as many people as I could, and to go to as many shows as I could. And the initial impression that I had of Melbourne was that it was going to be a multicultural hub, and that there was going to be, you know, a very diversified population, you know, from people from all over the world that have made Melbourne their home, which is initially what had attracted me. It wasn't the first time that I'd been, though. Because I didn't have anywhere to go for about 4 or 5 months. I stayed with my grandfather in Richmond, but I think it was, you know, early, halfway through 2015, I got the opportunity to visit Melbourne for the first time. I came down for a week, and I stayed with some friends who had already made the move from Byron Bay.
Mm.
And I remember that time, I was just like, this is insane. People drink on the corners outside of the bars and stuff like that. You don't see that in New South Wales, you know. It's like Paris and France, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just thought it was so liberated, but then just the ability to go to, you know, several different music venues that you had never been to before in the space of a week. And, you know, after that, be able to go and see, you know, 50 other different venues over the space of like a year. It was a very exciting time. My initial thought was, now I'm a small fish in a massive pond, whereas before it was kind of the opposite. I guess to a certain extent, people thought of me as being like some sort of big fish in a small pond. Though I never saw myself that way, but I realized that there was a lot of talent here that really grinds and really puts themselves out there. But yeah, for me, it was like this is a city where, you know, you can really have the opportunity to grind hard and be recognized for those efforts.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that because
Yeah,
I've seen people that have moved down from New South Wales, especially
yeah,
like if you know Lewis Grant, who does Discover Hip Hop, he's originally from New South Wales as well,
crazy.
and even he said that like he's so shocked on how Melbourne has become such the state of the art, if that makes sense.
Yes,
You know what I'm saying? Like
yeah,
it's state of the arts we can call it, and it's just amazing how like a lot of there's just talent, so much talent everywhere, and you know you can you know
saturated.
get yeah, it's just insane. It's even for me, like I never thought myself there'd be so much amazing talent myself, because when I started to get myself, I wanted to be get myself out there, and because I wanted to hang around with people that love doing what they're doing. They don't, I mean,
Yeah,
even me doing podcasting and stuff like that. Like I oh, I needed to be surrounded by people that doing what they love doing, and and
Yeah,
once and the rule had to go for me is like because I didn't want to be closed minded. I didn't want to be judgmental. I didn't want to
straight
be
up.
that closed minded, that mentality bullshit that I've lived in my life for so long. And I thought to
Yeah,
myself, no, I need to get myself out there. I wanted to be better as a person. And then when I got that opportunity to be surrounded by amazing talented people such as yourself as well as Ivory as well, and
yeah,
realizing like, wow, these people are just like me. Like they want to let their gift out into the world, and that's what makes them rich. You know what I'm saying? Because I've said this before, and I'll say it again. Real wealth determines on how full the soul is, right? And
yeah,
and um and then you can actually see it within the Melbourne artists, especially in the scene. You can actually see it,
for
and
sure.
it's just crazy, man. So, which raises the question: like, were you kind of nervous getting yourself out there because obviously you had to get out of your comfort zone to kind of
Yeah,
introduce yourself and talk to people and stuff like that? Was that kind of bit of a challenge at the beginning?
yeah, it was absolutely. I remember the first time that I had gone to a Can I Kick It night, which were happening at a Japanese whiskey bar. It's still around, straight off of Elizabeth Street on Little Lonsdale, I believe. I walked into the room, and I think that was kind of like the first occasion for me where it's like, there was 15 or 20 other people inside that same room that identified as being MCs or singers and artists. And all of a sudden, the dynamic had changed, but it was intimidating in the same sense as well because I was newly exposed to these culturally differentiated kind of people um, rapping and doing their own thing, and I feel like the wool had been pulled off from my eyes, so to speak. Like I was doing a lot of kind of like rock inspired funk, b-boy, like kind of rapping before I came to Melbourne, and I was like, well, I want to be in. I didn't come all this way to be shy about it, kind of thing. And despite feeling the nerves, I put myself out there as much as I could to really connect with people as much as I could. Can I Kick It Aside, which was run by a couple of really cool DJs that are still well known right now. Chris Daly and Stefan, DJ Detective, and Tom Klein was the original MC, still hosting the night. Uh, I used to go to the West Side once I had discovered or seen that there was another open mic. I would get onto Google when I first came to Melbourne, and I would just go, Melbourne, rap shows, blah, 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 and then I would go. So I went to Footscray on numerous occasions, and that was a big, shock for me, but also a big turning point for me to realize that hip hop is very much alive and well, and will almost be first and foremost a black artist expression. Um, the All You Can Spit nights were run by DJ Ron Browse, who, if you don't know who Ron is the owner of Ronnie's Blue Bar on Chapel Street, where Mono, the last couple of years recently, has been the host of another hip hop freestyle night. So anyway, DJ Ron Browse would also run these nights in Footscray. He called them All You Can Spit, and I was really kind of like the elephant in the room, so to
Yeah.
speak. I got there, and I remember there were more than one occasions where like I was the only kind of white person
Yeah.
in the room. And I'm not saying I'll never understand what it's like to be um, black, but like I kind of knew, you know, what it was like to be the outsider in that situation, kind of thing. Um, but I would still kind of, introduce myself and go, "Hey, what's up?" I call myself Trix William. This is what I do, and then, I'd get up and do my thing, and I would always, I'd always get approached afterwards, which was great. Um, but I always wanted that real and honest feedback about where I was at with my artistry,
Mm.
and yeah, like it was a nerve-wracking time, but it was also very exhilarating. You know, um, it- you know, when you first come to Melbourne, I think you have this real hunger to get out there and to really just be in the midst of it. Um, FOMO was a very real thing. These days, it's not so much for me anymore because I'm pretty content with where I'm at artistically and what I've done. But back then, yeah, for sure.
Okay. No, I love that, man. Will they? Well, because you mentioned before that you were the only white person. Then when you got up and doing your thing, was that a lot of pressure? Like, were you nervous because of all that pressure?
I just thought, you know what, I'm in like the west side of Footscray or or whatever, and I I was like, yeah, they're gonna probably not like initially have that rapport as what they would have with, say, their fellow brothers and sisters or whatever. But once the ice was, yeah, then like once the ice was broken, the nerves would dissipate. Um, I did feel like there was I did feel a lot of anxiety to prove myself in those earlier days, and just to get the respect and to be realized that I'm trying to give out my respect for the art form in turn. Um, you know, so I would always kind of try to hang out with the boys. Shout outs to Black Harrison and DJ Ron Browse and Slick Kwame, and there's been a lot of people that I've met over the course of nearly 10 years, nine,
Yeah.
10 years in Melbourne. Um, so yeah, I did feel nervous and pressured. These days, not so much, which is, it's a blessing.
No, good man. No, I love that. I love
Yeah.
that. And I think so. How do you? So nowadays, when you're going up on stage, do you kind of still have that kind of nerve a little bit, or you just have that attitude of, "Nah, that's it. We're gonna do this." So we're always ready.
Um, yeah, I really do get the urge to just go, all right, I'm a fucking make sure now that you uh know who the fuck I am, like, kind of thing. I have that kind of, I guess, demeanor. I mean, at the very core, I think hip hop is about asserting with, confidence who you are, unapologetically. That is, the real and raw essence of it, and also speaking, commentating about your problems, and just being real within yourself. Nowadays, I think that comes much more effortlessly than what it did in the past. Um, you know, I could be, I'm not always, but I could be four beers deep, and I'll get up and I can spit, verses that I've written over 10 years ago, you know what I mean? But they'll come like that, and I don't really have to think about it too much. I'm just in the motions of it, because it's, now to a certain extent, it's muscular memory. But I would like to say that, yeah, I am much more happy about and confident about who I am artistically. And I think when you are confident, uh, and there's no denial about it, people really, gravitate towards that, because there's a certain strength that comes out within within your voice that captures the attention of the room and whatnot. And um, an artist for me is really going to be somebody that I can hear clearly, and I've always tried to do that. You know, try to be clear about what I am and what I represent, and unapologetically so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, of course. Because yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the biggest keys is really learning how to be unapologetically yourself. And
yeah,
I reckon that's one of the I reckon it's a very hard journey as well because
it is. Yeah,
because sometimes it's like especially whatever environment that you're growing up in, especially if it's on the negative side, that you kind of does destroy your self-confidence because it's like, well, it's kind of like you need validation all the time, but it's like when you find a craft that's when you feel like you just do whatever you want, like have it, write everything down on paper,
yeah,
put it down as
yeah.
music, and and then now and slowly you'll realize, you know what, yeah, yeah, I can do this. I'm just gonna be myself, fuck it, you know what I mean, like now you've got you it's like, would you say that music is also your therapy as well?
Oh yeah, 100%. Like, there's been a lot of times in my life where I've been in a seemingly hopeless place. At least I had felt that way mentally, and I think we really do create a lot of limitations on ourselves mentally. But if it weren't for music, I wouldn't have pulled myself, you know, out of those slumps. And I forever will always try to make music a part of my lifestyle. I don't think it'll ever leave me, ever. So it is a very therapeutic process for me. I feel like if it weren't for the rap and having the opportunities that I've had, throughout my 20s into my early 30s into now, uh, that I would have gone a different way. I probably would have, you know, ended up in jail, or just really fucked myself up by smoking way too much weed or crack, or drowning in alcohol. For me, I'm trying to make music my drug, and I'm trying to make the rap my drug. And you know nowadays I hear the new beats and new styles that come out, and fortunately, I still get that hunger, that inspiration, and just that desire to go. You know what? I need to be on this. I need to get it out, and I need to, um, write and express to this. I don't think it'll ever leave me. It will always be the best form of therapy for me.
No, I love that. No, I love that. And because you also do producing as well, isn't that right?
Yeah, yeah, for
And
sure. I
are you always like, how do you now explain to me that? Like, do you have that moment where like you have a beat that comes to you and you kind of like experiment with that and then see how you go with that? Or do you just kind of like, just play around with anything and then see how we go? So how's that process work?
Okay, so I mean, for me, I have grown up being a Fruity Loops, the OG of Doors,
Hmm.
uh, and creating on that. When I was living in Inverell in the country during my high school years, I was as young as 13, 14, and from that age, I had a very close mate of mine. Shout outs to Jake. J Dog, what's up, man? That would create these beats with me, and for us it was just a bit of fun. But I still use Fruity Loops to this day, and I've got the full version of that. I understand that there's other ones out there like Ableton and Reason and Cubase and whatnot, but I love the aesthetic and the workflow of Fruity Loops. Yes, it's very loop oriented, or kind of was made originally to produce dance music,
Hmm.
but a lot of early hip hop producers from like the 2000s, like Timbaland, or I'm trying to remember his name. Dates. He dates Alicia Keys. Anyway, I can't think of him right now, but
Swiss Beats.
Swizz Beats. That's him. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure he was an avid user of it. And then here in Australia, there was also, I don't know if I'm just throwing out words here, but there were artists here as well that were making some fire shit on Fruity Loops. For me, when I get into the groove of just putting something down, because that's a very different process and it's more methodical. I would typically start with just like the drum feel, you know, or if it was swung like, whatever. And then I would start to construct melodies around that. But I would always do it by ear. So initially, I would kind of know just from the raps that were in my head how fast it was going to be, the beat is going to be, and then I could even demo those lyrics. Back in those days, we were using Adobe Audio
Yeah.
to record our shit with this SingStar mic and a stocking hung over an old coat hanger. I mean, that was the kind of technological extent of our studio.
It was the starter pack.
Yeah, that's right. It was our starter pack, man. Yeah, it's we would. I'm not gonna lie. Like I partied even when I was a teenager. Growing up in the country, we had nothing else to do. I would go out to Gilgai, which is like 10 kilometers out from Inverell. We would make beats. We would have a few drinks, kick it and chill. But I would always start with like either that. Jake was always great at flipping samples and whatnot. So I would always watch how he would reconstruct things. Like he would always do these crazy remixes of like Kanye West tracks and early Rick Ross and other bits and pieces. And he was very talented in doing that. And I, in turn, would also kind of help him with just writing lyrically and stuff because he never identified as a rapper or artist, but we would muck around and he would show me a few things on Fruity Loops and I would show him a few things lyrically. And these days I might start with a melody that I hear on the piano or just muck around on my Arturia keyboard and then I'll go to record it. At least then I'll have a sense of the key signature. I usually love my sharp minors like C sharp or F sharp or even melodic minors. I do tend to write beats that are kind of more, they have big build-ups and there's a lot going on texturally. They're kind of unconventional in that sense. Yeah. Okay. I hope I didn't digress too much from the initial question there.
That's okay. No, that's good. No, because this is what helps me understand. Because I was at one of the studios. It's called Burn City Studios. I was with Legend the Rapper. I don't know if you're familiar with him. And
yeah,
I wanted to get he invited me to the studio as well because I wanted to actually see the actual process of everything. Like I wanted to know, I wanted to learn about, what's the process of, you have you say if an artist comes to you and they're like, oh, I have a beat, it goes like this, da, 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 and then you kind of bounce off the producer with the rapper or the singer, whatever, and that's when that's when you start cooking. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I've always found that like very interesting. Like, have you worked with other artists with your producer? Has Ivor always been the main number one?
No, I've worked with other MCs and whatnot, but you know what? I do want to collaborate more. If I were to set aside people that I've worked with here in Melbourne in that studio kind of environment, there's been Toomey, which is he's a great pioneer for me. And we've worked together in a couple different situations. We've recorded a collaboration in Color Sound Studios in Altona, for example. I've also had him over at my current home studio set up and whatever else. And aside from him, when I was going to college college, I would work with different musicians and would learn to track guitars and bass and even mic up a drum kit and things like that, which these days now I'm not doing so much of, but that kind of helped me get confident with the studio process. And look, the beauty of working in that construction, that recording studio phase these days is we have so much technology at our fingertips that I think it would be crazy to completely rule out the capacity for somebody to learn at a very kind of fundamental level how recording works and getting a microphone set up and constructing a beat and whatnot. I really feel like, anybody can start if they really, really fucking want to.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I did. I don't come from like the conservatorium of music or whatever. I just, when I'm feeling it, I will get into my room, and it might even take me a couple of hours before I really feel like the loop that I've got is sounding fresh, and I may have exhausted the playback from that point. But I'll still do it, and because I've got that drive, something will manifest from that. Yeah, I've collabed with other artists like D-Rad, who is in New Zealand now. Shout out to D-Rad. I collaborated with 1-6 Stefan, who is still around these days, one of the OGs here in Melbourne. I've collaborated with Stay Nice, who's another producer who's moved away to Byron Bay, but he was here recently for a Royalty Noise gig. Yeah, I mean, there's a handful of people that I could mention, but they're not necessarily anybody that you would know. I'm proud to say it's just always been friends that I've kind of collaborated with in the recording studio space, but it is very much a motivation for me now to get out there and to collaborate more with other like-minded artists in Melbourne and beyond.
Yeah. No, I love that. No, I love that, man. And thank you for sharing that too, man. Like
For
it's
sure, for sure.
man, because again, like it's just I've always found it very interesting where you get an artist and you get a producer, and then it's really learning how to bounce off each other. If you can do that from the
Yeah.
get-go, that's fantastic. And it's just it's always been it's fascinating because it is because I've always been curious about like the behind the scenes, like the behind like the the real work behind it, because you'd hear like a lot of artists be spending hours on
Mm.
hours on hours in the studio trying to get this get this particular song right or the album right, and it's always interesting. I've always loved that. But now, so where do you are you so with your music, are you trying to become famous, or are you trying to be financially stable when it comes to music?
I mean, look, this is a very confronting question for anybody who isn't 100% honest
Mhm.
with themselves. If they were to be asked that question, do, do I want to be famous
Mm.
or just be financially stable? I think the short answer would be that it's both, you know? I think you get to a certain point of maturation uh, artistically after you've been in the game, you've been out and about. Um, maybe beyond 10 years, maybe for others it happens sooner, but you really get comfortable with the fact that it is a saturated market and there is so much talent out there
Mm.
that it is exceedingly difficult
Mm.
to break the through and reach that kind of unprecedented level of success, worldwide fame, and Grammys and touring and having millions and millions of streams these days, and stadiums filled with people fucking with you and your sound, you know what I mean? And I think that, you know, when you speak of fame like that, you would be dishonest with yourself if you hadn't thought about it, being famous. For me, I feel like I just want to be, you know, on stage as much as possible. And the bigger the crowd, the merrier. But that doesn't necessarily translate to a quiet lifestyle outside of that, where I can maintain privacy and I can maintain an air of distance and whatever else. And, you know, for a lot of, you know, artists, I could imagine at that level, it really is a contradiction where, you know, they love that they have that admiration and so many fans and people listening to what they've created, but at the same time they can't walk down the street and you know, not be fucking bothered by a cloud of paparazzi or crazy incessant obsessive people that might even want to fucking get a little bit too crazy and pull something out on you, and then lo and behold, you know,
Yeah.
you're bleeding out on the pavement. But I don't mean to go dark there. But you know what I'm saying? It's
Yeah,
like,
of course.
yeah, like for me, I would be just incredibly grateful if I had the opportunity to reach that level of self-sufficiency. Being in a country such as Australia, to be living off the music, I mean, that would be a dream come true. And look, we're told by a lot of streamers and people online, you know, marketing themselves and these businesses, that we are living in that era where that is indeed possible, but it still takes a lot of hard work. Even beyond that, you know, just putting yourself out there constantly where you do have a loyal fan base. It's a fucking grind, and that's what people that aren't doing this on a day-to-day basis don't understand. That, you know, it's not just about trying to get famous. It is about constantly engaging an audience where, you know, we can be in a position to invest in our craft, in our equipment, in our ability to, say, take a couple of months off and go touring, whether it be regionally or around the country or around the world. And nothing comes without sacrifice. I would say that, you know, I'm at a point where hitting it big in the back of my mind is you know, somewhere it's always going to be there, like wondering, like, what if? Which is why nowadays I try to be more proactive with just putting music out and being out, you know, to live concerts and things and putting my own stuff on. But if it were to go the other way and I didn't, you know, become famous or whatever at that level, I at least want to be funding my craft. The brutal, honest truth is, for the majority of the people out there that are pushing themselves, they may need an alternate source of income to support themselves, you know? And that's perfectly okay. It's a juggling act. Ivory and I have full-time jobs. I think living in a country as expensive as Australia, where you're living out of home, it's just part of life where, you know, at the end of the day, we still got to pay bills and we still got to pay rent and fines and groceries and fuel and everything else. And it's very hard to be realistic about what we can set aside.
Yeah.
But on that same token, the people that have actually made it, hit it big time, have done crazy wild shit. Like, I know that Ed Sheeran was sleeping on couches for until he was like 21, and then he hit it big all of a sudden. You know, I know people that go homeless or they quit their jobs and they just devote 100% to their craft. And I'm saying, if that's you, then fucking do it. Reach for the stars. You know what I mean? And go all out, because you never know unless you try to that extent.
Yeah, because
But
we only have one life. To be honest,
yeah,
we're not here for a long time, so we might as well just really execute the gift that we all have. Because I hate it when
straight up.
people say that they don't have a gift. We all have a gift. You probably just haven't found it yet. That's all. But when you are,
Yeah,
but again, we are living in this world. We're not here for a long time, but that's why
here
we
for a
have
good
to
time.
make the most of it.
Yes,
We have to make the most of it, and as
yeah,
well as do what we can. That's it. Just do what we can. We don't have to put pressure on ourselves or anything like. We just got to do our very best, and then that's it. Because
facts.
because I've even asked myself this question. I said, if I died tomorrow, would I say that I have achieved whatever it is I wanted to achieve?
For
That's the
sure,
question.
for
And
sure.
it's like, and yeah, and I said to myself, and I said, well, you know what? Yes, I have done it, even though I'm still on my way. But if I were to die tomorrow, at least I can say that I have done something. I put myself out there. I've gotten people on a show that's able to let them tell their story and let them hear their voice, and
Straight up.
and obviously being around positive energy people and people appreciate my energy, etc.
There's,
And I
there's a
would say
legacy
that
there.
yeah, and
Yeah,
as well as I'm confident to say that my soul is full. Then I have no regrets. If whatever wasn't for me, I have to accept that. You know?
straight up.
Yeah,
Straight up.
man.
I really resonate with that. I think if the most unconceivable accident were to occur tomorrow, because we never really know when we're gonna go, and that's why not to be cliche, but every moment that we have is a gift. I would be very, very grateful for how far I have come. I've done more when I speak to other people that may be struggling to find that confidence to make those first few steps. And I've overcome that self-consciousness, and I've also inspired people that I hold very near and dear to me, and they're my day ones, man. And they still watch me to this day, and I'm talking about people that I grew up with, you know, as a kid and in high school, and back to Lismore when I was doing the course and when I was in the band and whatever else. And I'm never going to lose those connections.
Never.
Those connections remain infinite, and music itself is infinite. And I believe that leaving a legacy where people that matter are going to remember you for having pursued 100% what it is that you love to do, it, that that is far more important than impressing people that they may not ever meet you. That's far more important than worldwide fame, and far more important than being a trendsetter or being the loudest in the room. I think that you know being authentic as well with your artistry is being content with shining in the dark, because it's not for everybody. And I feel like there's a lot of strings attached to that level of stardom and fame and whatever else that, being a person that is not at that level, I can't conceive of, and maybe I don't understand it, but I can understand enough to say that, you know, I've fucking have made sacrifices so that I can still do this on a day-to-day basis. Like, you can see my studio behind me, and I'm still out there in the local scene, and
Yeah.
my partner herself identifies as a singer,
Yeah.
and my best mates are performers, and
We're famous in our own town.
well, yeah, that's it. You don't have to be famous worldwide. You may be respected and loved by your community. and that's more than enough.
Yeah, I was just going to say that's enough. That's all you really need. You don't really need an army of people, just at least a hand group of people that actually respect you and actually give a fuck about you for the
Yeah,
most part, as well
yeah,
as, you know, respecting what you do. They don't have to like it, but they can respect it because this is what if they support you and give a fuck about you, then they will appreciate what you do. Simple.
that's it, 100%.
Yeah.
Like my father, for example, he's a blues guy. He
Hmm.
doesn't, straight up understand the style of rap and stuff, but he understands enough now that it's part of me, and he tells me when, we have very deep conversations, you know what, Blake, like, I'm just really glad that you had something, an outlet that you could, um, you know, refer to when you were going through those difficult times, and I'm grateful that you have it, and that for me is just that is one of the greatest accomplishments that you can achieve, to have respect from others that they may not understand or necessarily even like what it is that you do, but they understand that it's important to you and they have that acceptance.
Yeah. Yeah, of
Yeah,
course. Yeah, man, I love it. Well, I think that's it from my side. Did you have
for
any
sure.
questions for me at all? Out
Yeah, I
of
mean,
curiosity?
yeah. Look, what is the ultimate goal for the future of your podcasts?
That is an excellent question, and I'm going to answer that right now. So, my next 5 years, where I'm looking at so far, is I'm going to be doing a international tour myself
Sick.
because I've built connections in parts of the states of the America as well. I need to see them.
Huge.
I need to start from Cali all the way to New Jersey, and then I got to go back and then go home. So that's
Huge.
basically the next goal. But the biggest goal, I want to be the next Joe Rogan of Australia. That's what I want.
Wow.
Alright, you gotta aim high, bruv.
Oh,
You
I'm
know,
going. Oh, I'm going. I'm aiming high and I'm shooting. I don't care. I'm shooting. but
straight up.
but yeah. But I want to say thank you so much, Trix, for you being on the show as well, but sharing your story as well. And I want to let both of you know, Ivory, I need you to scoot in a little bit because this
Scoot
message is for you as
in.
well. All right, now I have my own definition of what success or a successful person looks like. Right? I don't give a shit about society's version because it's bullshit anyway. My
Yep.
Yeah.
version of a successful person is that you are doing what you love doing, you are working hard at it, and you're getting results, whether it's minor or major, and you are growing as a person. Through that, that's a successful person. So, to both of you are successful people.
Bless them, man.
Thank you. Blessings to you. Thanks.
Hey,
And right back at you, Labzy. Thank
hey,
you.
yeah, much appreciated.
All right. Was there anything else before we go?
Again, I would just like to,
Come out to our shows.
yeah, say,
Yes, I
for those
will.
people that are going to be watching this after the fact, we still have a few more shows to close the end of the year.
Come party.
Yeah, come kick it
Come
with us.
connect. Have a good time.
Yeah,
Watch our new music video, No Limit.
Yes.
yeah.
Out on YouTube right now.
Shit goes hard.
Right.
But there's more. There's more coming.
More music.
There's a couple more singles that are going to be dropping from myself and Ivory before the end of the year.
Yeah.
But the next one that's coming up, the next show is on the 8th of December. Is that right?
December.
At the Workers Club in Fitzroy. It's
Big
a
one.
Saggy birthday bash, so we got ourselves and a couple other Sagittarian
People.
artists. But we're gonna be sharing the links for that, and shout outs to DC Natalie and Sci-Fly Mill, the originators of the Barcada Night. The next one is on the 21st of December
at Laundry.
at Laundry
Melbourne
Bar.
Laundry. Support Melbourne music people.
Yeah. So if you're still about in the city, come through and check us out, because that's going to be a sick night, and that crowd really holds it down for their own, and we're very much very, very lucky to be a part of that and to bring our own creativity to that stage as well.
Bring our flavors.
Yeah, yeah.
Our flavors.
That's right.
The
Yeah.
flavor.
Yeah.
But yeah, bring us getting tickets, people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you very much, guys, for both of you being on the show as well. And I want to say thank you for the people that have joined in live as well. Please go support them. Please go support local Melbourne artists as well, because they will do more than any celebrity will. Let's just be honest here. Let's really be honest here. So make sure you go. Make sure you obviously follow these two, Ivory Archer as well as Trix William, and they'll also send links to obviously their upcoming shows. And guys, thank you so much. Thank you so much again. I want you to enjoy the rest of the weekend, the rest of your day, and yeah, I'll bump into you guys soon. We'll definitely speak soon. I'll definitely see you on the. I'll definitely see you on the 8th and the 21st.
Yeah.
So I'll be there.
That's large, man. Likewise.
Much love.
Real talk with Labzy. Support
yeah.
the army. Thanks for the plug, bro.
No worries.
Enjoy your weekend, and we'll see you soon.
You too, guys. Have a good day. Bye.
Peace, bro.
Real talk with Labzy, we speaking the truth from the streets to the booth, giving voice to the groove, no holding back. Every combo's the proof. It's the realest in the game. Now we raising the roof. Real talk with Labzy, Labzy, Labzy. Real talk with Labzy, Labzy, Labzy. Real talk with Labzy, Labzy, Labzy. Real talk with Labzy.